he asked me if I could please do something about having the same name as him, so I was like, oh, I've got a middle name. I guess I can do that. I don't normally go by Nathan Robert. I never go by Nathan Robert, so don't worry about using the Robert in my name. Please don't call me Bob or Nate Bob. Or, yeah, it's weird when you find out you have a redneck name, huh? Yeah, no, I'm just Nathan. I'm a writer and a mythologist, which, as anyone in my family can tell you, is just really a fancy way of saying whore. I guess it's been 6 years now. About 6 years ago, I was approached by my publisher to write a book for Supernatural called The Mythology of Supernatural, which did surprisingly well. They were not expecting it. It did the opposite of what most books do. Most books sell really well when they come out, and then as time goes on, the sales go this way. The book did horrible when it came out, and over the last 6 years, it's done this. It's gone up. As a matter of fact, just last month, we passed 20,000 copies, which is insane for a nonfiction mythology title. And the good news is that since we've passed 20,000 titles, that means the publisher will now again consider the possibility of letting me do a volume 2 for season 6 to whenever we end up ending.
No!
I know, I don't want to bring it up. Some people are saying it's coming, some people are saying it's not coming.
It's the apocalypse.
Anyway, the other things I want to go over for legal reasons. I don't work for the CW. I don't work for Supernatural. I work for Penguin Random House. I'm not affiliated with the show in any way, shape, or form. All of my thoughts are my own, and on that same thing, all of your beliefs are your own. I'm not up here to offend anybody or challenge your belief system or make you believe anything different than what you already believe. It's, your beliefs are totally your own. I'm just here to deliver information. Once again, this is going to get weird in some places, so please don't kill me. I've actually had an old lady in the library once throw like a peach smoothie at my head. I was talking about Lilith and pre-Judaic biblical lore. She was not happy about the idea of pre-Judaic biblical lore. The fact that existed made her very angry. On Reddit a few years ago, somebody found out that Justin Atkins and I went to the same junior high at the same time. That is an amazing coincidence. We didn't hang out. We don't hang out now. Yes, we did go to junior high together. We didn't really run in the same circles. I have not seen the guy since I was 15 years old, and I was like walking past him in the hallway at school. I totally don't know anything else about the guy. The reason I say this is because when that first happened on Reddit, I found out because the first time I did one of these kinds of panels, the first 20 questions I got were about Jensen Ackles. So please don't ask me about him. I don't know. And I have no idea. Oh, good news and bad news. I kind of spoiled that already. So the good news, like I said, is we got to 20,000 copies. And bad news is the publisher is still not willing to say 100% they're willing to let me do a volume 2, but they're willing to at least think about it. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'll come back next year and we will have a volume 2. Because right now it only goes up to season 5 with a little bit of season 6 in there. Whatever I could sneak in towards in the editing phase while I was watching season 6 made it into the book. So anyway, what I want to talk about today, the main thing we're going to focus on are the women in Supernatural, and primarily the big bad women in Supernatural. Lilith, the scary bee, Eve, the mother of all, and Amara, the darkness. When Lilith came along, I was really happy about that because I wrote my master's dissertation on Lilith. I absolutely am obsessed with the figure of Lilith. And so, actually in the book, there's an entire chapter dedicated to just Lilith. And love her. And I was surprised when Eve showed up, because it wasn't the Eve that I was expecting. It was the Eve that they took from a completely different set of books, and we'll get into that in more detail as time goes on. And when that happened, I was like, okay, so we've got a maiden in Lilith, and we have a mother in Eve, and I'm like, they're not going to do a triple goddess thing, are they? And then the darkness came along, and I was like, oh no, they're not. This is going to be the darkness, and the darkness turned out to be a woman. And I was like, there we go. All right, triple goddess. So for those of you who don't know, Trinities a lot of times follow what I call the human trinity. That you have one figure who represents the body, one figure who represents the mind, and one figure who represents the soul, spirit. If you look at the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Son's the body, the body of Christ. Father is the mind, and the Holy Spirit, obviously, the soul, spirit. When it comes to the triple goddess, those are represented by maiden, mother, and crone. Maiden representing the body, the mother representing the mind, and the crone representing the soul or spirit or transcendent part of the whole group. And I feel that in Supernatural, these are represented by Lilith, Eve, and Amara. So we're going to do a little recap on Lilith real quick. Sorry, I forgot to take the bad letters out for that one. Lilith actually is pretty scary. She's been around, not always has she been scary though. She's been around for about at least 5,000 years that we can tell. Her first written stuff that we can verify is about 3,000 years old. But most likely we found evidence in figurines and non-verbal art that suggests she's been around since probably one of the first agricultural settlements that existed, which was called Chateau, and another culture called the Alubaidu. Both of them seem to have figures that are very similar to Lilith. So most likely there was an oral tradition that goes back to about 3000 BCE. The first written myth that we find her in is the Lupa Tree myth. And even though the origin is dated in 3000 BC, you have to understand the actual tablets themselves are only to about somewhere between 750 BC and 1050 BC. So they're about 3,000 years old. In the Lupa Tree myth, you're going to see some parallels here. In the Lupa Tree myth, you have this situation where there's this beautiful, magical Lupa tree that basically it gets its roots washed away, and it goes into the river. And the handmaiden of this goddess named Inanna finds it. And Inanna goes and plants this holy tree in her holy garden. You guys see where this is going. So you have a garden with a tree in it. And then she gives the tree 10 years to mature, and she's planning on making all of these things out of the tree once it's matured, like a bed, like a bridal bed, and some like tools and things like that. Basically, all of them were kind of symbols of civilization, which at that time was a fairly new thing. But 10 years go by, and she goes back into the garden, and she finds a snake that cannot be tamed wrapped around the roots. And in the tree's branches, she finds a bird called an anzu bird. It's kind of like a griffin, but it's not exactly a griffin. It depends on how you see them portrayed. Sometimes they have a human head, like an eagle body. Sometimes they have an eagle head and a lion body. Sometimes they have a human head and a lion body with wings. There's lots of different ways that they've been portrayed. But there's an anzu bird that with its babies up in the branches, and in the trunk is the dark maiden Lilith. The dark maiden Lilith has made her home in the tree. Now, Lilith, or Inanna, you have to understand, was the most powerful goddess in their pantheon at that time. And she sits down on the ground and starts crying when she sees this. She has no power whatsoever to stop any of this. But you have to understand that this myth was written by a male sky god culture. Okay? They like their dudes. And that sounded wrong too. So she does what any girl in a patriarchal culture does. You need a couch move, you go get your brother. So she went and got her brother Gilgamesh, who took an insanely heavy axe and smashed the tree with it. And the snake ran away, and the anzu bird flew away. And Lilith, and this is kind of where things get important with Lilith. Lilith, it says, flew away to the wild and uninhabited land. It never says where anything else went except for Lilith. And a theory that I have is a theory that's starting to be backed up by other mythologists. It wasn't a popular theory when I first wrote it. And plus, I was just a punk grad student when I wrote it. People didn't like that. What I believe was that that myth was written in order to get Lilith worshippers out of the city. Back then, gods were given geographical positions. Like, if you wanted to worship this god, you went to this place to do it. Each city had its own patron god. So if you wanted to worship that god, you went to that city. So, by saying that Lilith goes out away from the city means if you want to worship her, you got to leave the city. And it's really, I always find it hard to explain what it's like in a world with no social services. outside of the walls of the city in ancient times, trying to move, unless you were moving in an armed caravan, was suicide. Living outside of the city meant no police, no help. I mean, just moving from one city to another with your family, you came across some guys that liked your stuff. There was nothing to stop them from murdering you, enslaving your family, taking everything you own, and not actually suffering any consequences. No one was even going to investigate your death. You were just going to be a skeleton somebody found on the road later. And so that brings us to what I call the Lilith expulsion. What I think happened was some of the Lilith worshippers did leave the city. There has been evidence of a similar goddess. Basically, there's a cylinder seal of Lilith standing in this position with wavy lines in her hand. You go to Manoah, Crete, the Manoah ruins, there is a topless female figure of a goddess standing in this position with snakes in her hands. There is about a 3,000 year difference between the two when they were made. So what I believe, and I believe there are several goddesses in other mythologies that were created because of Lilith worshippers moving to other countries. They probably went. Some of them probably ended up in Judea first, but then when the Jews started murdering anyone who wasn't Jewish, they had to kind of leave. Luckily, the Phoenicians were there about that time. They were able to hop on boats. I think they ended up in Crete. I also believe the Lamia myth is most likely based on Lilith because Lam was actually a southern dialect word for Lilith, and the northern dialect word was Ka. Which is interesting because the northern dialect worshippers would have most likely, instead of heading to the Mediterranean, they would have headed the other direction, across basically the Hindu Kush into India. And you get Kali. So I believe that's probably what happened. And the interesting thing about Lamia is that even in the Greek myth, she was supposed to be a Persian princess originally. She came to Persia, which would have been that area. So I believe that the worshippers basically spread out and influenced other cultures. But the only reason we know that Lilith exists, we knew she existed before the tablets were found, basically because of a book called the Alphabet of Ben Sira that was written by a Jewish mystic in the Middle Ages. Some people say it's an ancient Solomon text. It's not. It was written in the Middle Ages by a Jewish mystic who was in the service of a Christian noble who had a very sick child and basically told this guy, kill my son or I'm going to kill you. So he was like, okay, I'll do that. But back then it was much easier to say that what you were doing was magic than science. People were more willing to accept magic back then. So he would do things like draw symbols under the bed, but he was most likely administering medicine while he was doing this. But it was easier to get him to accept that he was doing some booga booga. And when the nobleman asked him why he was using that symbol, he said it was to bar Lilith, and then he asked him to write out why, explain that to him. So he wrote out in his journal, you might say, in the alphabet of Ben Sira, a kind of a different version of Genesis. He explained that Lilith was the first wife of Adam. They were both made from dirt. She was not made from his rib. Adam almost immediately started having sex with animals. And God was like, no, that's cheese floor. Stop doing that. I always see Chuck in my head whenever I like, please stop doing that. Not what I meant. So anyway, he goes to Lilith and he's like, let's do this. I'm going to be on top. And Lilith's like, hey, no, I'm going to be on top. Which seems like a really stupid thing to get fight about. But they do. And because she won't let him be on top, he starts to beat her and attempts to rape her, at which point God basically plucks her out of Eden and stays her at the last minute. And depending on the version, I've seen this in some translations of Ben Sira, and other ones it's not there. It says she sat in the lap of God for 7 days. No one really knows exactly what that means. After those 7 days, God's like, okay, now go back to Eden and live with your rapist and play nice. She was like, no, I'm not doing that. So he cast her out into, and some people say it was Nod. It doesn't say Nod. He just basically expelled her to the wasteland, giving birth to 100 stillborn children every day. So she was walking through the desert, just popping out dead babies over and over again. And on her travels, he sent 3 separate archangels to give her a chance to come back. And basically, she flipped every single one of them off, told them to go attack themselves, and kept moving. So the angels go back to God. This is the thing I find interesting. The angels could not stop her. They go back to God and they say, she won't come back. And he's like, okay, well, pretty soon she's going to reach the Red Sea. When she gets there, all three of you go. You tell her to come back, and if she doesn't, kill her. And they're like, got it. So they go to the Red Sea, they meet up with Lilith, and they say, hey, God says you got to come back. If you don't, we got to kill you. And she laughs at them. And it's one of my favorite, I think, lines in all of mythology. She laughs in the face of three archangels and says, my precious little darlings, like they're idiots. And she says, don't you know why I was created? I was created to be the bane of mothers and children. There's nothing you can do to stop me. At which point, I can only imagine she flipped in the bird and jumped into the Red Sea. And became the demon's bride of Ashmedai and several other. She was heavily demonized after that. She became a demon. So in Jewish circles and in the Jewish mysticism, they believe for like the first 8 to 10 days, depending on where a girl, a baby is susceptible, so is the mother, to an attack by Lilith. And men who sleep alone are vulnerable to seduction by Lilith. I think it's better in everything. So what they do is they have different amulets and circles that they can use to bar Lilith. You can find them on the internet. I won't go into detail on those. But anyway, that's our quick recap of Lilith. Now when Eve came along, I was really shocked because like everybody, when I found out the mother of all monsters, I was just waiting on a keynote. Like I was dead set it's gotta be a keynote. It's the mother of all monsters. It's gotta be a keynote from Greek mythology. But the fact that she was in purgatory didn't quite make sense to me because they were mixing their mythologies a bit. But the truth is, like Dante's hell really actually pulls a lot from Greek, so I thought maybe that's what they were going with it. But then they said Eve, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, did I miss something in Bible school? Because I know I've read Genesis like 10 times. I read the Bible more than most Christians. And I don't remember that part being in there. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to break out the heretical stuff. And so that's what I did. I went through every heretical book, which there aren't that many, that mentioned Eve. And I finally hit the one I find that they got it from. And it was from the Gnostic scriptures, specifically from a collection of books called the Nag Hammadi scriptures. And the Nag Hammadi scriptures were named after a cliff in Egypt, or an area in Egypt, where they were found. They were only found less than 100 years ago. They were found back in December 1945. A group of Fellahin, which are kind of like migrant workers, were looking at the base of a cliff called Jabal al-Tariq. They were looking for this stuff. It's like a natural fertilizer that grows underneath like vegetation in the desert, and you can dig it out and use it. Usually in places where there's rivers only certain times of the year. So they went there looking for it. And as they were digging, they found a giant clay pot that was sealed. And then they started to have an argument because they wanted to open it, but then somebody's like, well, what if there's a djinn in there? This was an actual conversation these guys had. They're like, as we all know, if there's a djinn there, it wouldn't be a good thing. So there might be djinn in this thing, and the evil spirits, we don't want to let evil spirits loose. And then somebody goes, yeah, but there might be gold in there. They were like, let's do it. Let's go ahead. So they busted they basically, by sheer force, busted the pot open, and unfortunately damaged quite a few of the books that were in there. Most of them were just leather-bound scrolls and books. Some of them were actually bound, like you would find out. And among those that were there, one of the ones that was found was called On the Origin of the World, or we call it On the Origin of the World. It doesn't actually have a name. But it's weird to call it that which must not be named, so we went with On the Origin of the World. What happened was, probably around 367 CE, Athenius, who was Archbishop of Alexandria, he basically chose 22 books of the Bible and said, these are the books that are accepted, and everything else needs to be gotten rid of. I don't care what it is. If you have any other writings that aren't these 22 books of the Bible that I'm approving, you need to get rid of them. Destroy them, discard them, but get rid of them. Gnostics, this was in, obviously, early Christianity. Christianity has been for around a few hundred years at this point. And Gnostics, like their name suggests, Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, which basically means knowledge. And so, to them, knowledge was something that was given, and ration and reason, something that was given to humans by God. And so to them, destroying knowledge was a sacrilegious thing to do, getting rid of books. I mean, that was absolutely unacceptable to them. So most likely, sometime around 367 CE, a group of Gnostic monks in Nag Hammadi took the books that were supposed to be destroyed, put them in a pot, sealed them up, and buried them, thinking we'll come back for these later. Now, shortly after this, most Gnostics were murdered, were wiped out by Christians. They were summarily excommunicated, killed, sold off. I mean, any number of bad things happened to them. They were basically seen as a heretical sect, and primarily, as you'll see, because they were willing to try to evolve the mythology of Christianity by looking at it from different angles. And that's where we get the origin of the world. The origin of the world is a completely different version of Genesis than what you're used to. Absolutely amazing different version, but it's different. Basically what happened was an unknowable, transcendent God, you can't even use the word God to describe it, creates existence, like sneezes it out, whatever you want to say. And from that existence rise two main godlike beings. One is Yaldabaoth, who's male, and one is Sophia Pistis, whose name means wisdom and faith, who's female. Sophia, as the name suggests, pretty smart. She goes, wow, that's amazing. Obviously, I didn't create myself. Something greater than me must exist. Yaldabaoth went, woohoo, I created myself! And went around high-fiving angels that he started creating one by one. Which some of this, I think, got moved into the darkness stuff. But this is for Eve, I think, is where they got it. So Sophia's first thing Sophia does is she creates another her. She creates a daughter. This named Sophia Zoe, who will later become to be known as Eve. Zoe's first thing Zoe does is she creates her own vessel. She creates a physical entity that she can inhabit. She creates that vessel, she gets into it, and then as soon as she gets the vessel set up and ready, before she gets into it, she creates another being, a serpent, called the teacher. Which, and the text is very specific about this, that those who don't understand call this creature the beast. And this will come to make sense later. I know it sounds kind of sacrilegious at this point to some people, but trust me, it makes sense in the story. So what happens then is Zoe lets the teacher loose on Earth, enters her vessel, and she has this really cool poem that she recites about how she is now both mother, daughter, and wife as one. Like she did all this without a man. So she basically created her own self as a daughter, created her own vessel, and made a human life all as herself, and with no need for a partner. And it's a very almost feminist poem for the time period, and I would definitely imagine it would not have survived the Middle Ages if it had ever been found in the Middle Ages. I'm glad it wasn't found until the 20th century, because any time probably before that, somebody would have burned it. So Yaldabaoth is like, well, if she can do that, I can definitely do that. So he molds Adam out of clay. Tries to, he's like, come on, and nothing happens. He's kind of like and forgive the use of this comparison, he's kind of like a walking abortion, in the sense that like he can't walk, he can't talk, he's just kind of, he's like a baby in an adult human body. And Yaldabaoth is absolutely disgusted by the fact that he can't manage to do this. So he abandons Eden and leaves Adam there just kind of flapping around, and leaves these 7 archangels, which are referred to in this text as the 7 lords of chaos, there to watch over it. At that point, Eve, or Zoe, as Eve, shows up in the garden and breathes life into Adam. Which basically means that Eve isn't just the mother of all monsters, she's the mother of everything. Like she created herself and breathed life into Adam. At which point the 7 lords of chaos, and this is a fun part, ladies, prepare to be astounded. The 7 lords of chaos knock Adam out and make him have a dream where he believes that God pulled a rib out and made Eve out of that. So the rib thing is a total lie, ladies. That's according to this text, anyway. So the 7 lords, and at that, so then once they do that, then they're like, who is this Eve lady anyway? And they go to attack her. Before they can get to Eve, what Zoe does, she takes her light. They don't really explain how this works, but she takes her light out and puts it into a nearby tree. Wait, see where this is going. Supposed to light through the tree, and Eve is there, Adam is there, and this is where things are going to get a little icky. So at that point, the seven lords of chaos each basically take turns raping Eve. It turns out in this text, it claims that Abel is actually the son of one of these rapes. But Cain is not mentioned as such, which I think is kind of interesting, because Cain usually gets the bad end of things in mythology. After they're done doing that, they turn Eden into like a prison. They strike Adam and Eve with like this stupor that makes them dumb. They have no life in them anymore. They just kind of walk around day to day, just, kind of like zombies. And it's at this point that they kind of go off and they bring us back to Yaldabaoth. And it's weird. It's like Yaldabaoth has this moment of revelation where he's like, oh my God, I couldn't bring life into a thing, which means I'm not God, which means something else definitely had to have created me. But instead of acknowledging that truth when he realizes it, he basically covers it up and goes, no, I'm still God, woohoo! And at that point, the unknowable God gives him a new name, which is Samael, which means blind God. Basically, blind to the truth, in a sense. So Yaldabaoth, from here henceforth, will be referred to as Samael. Alright, so at this point, because the light of Zoe is in the tree, the Yaldabaoth Samael goes to Adam and Eve and says, you guys can eat anything in this garden except any fruit that comes from that tree over there. Alright. The reason being is because Zoe's divine light is encased in that tree, and if they eat that fruit, they'll remember who they are. They'll remember where they came from, and they'll probably stop worshiping the Lord of Chaos and Yaldabaoth. So, it's at this point that the teacher, also known as Beast, shows up, and his role in the whole story becomes clear. He goes to Eve, and recognizes her as Zoe, and says, what's happened to you? She's like, well, we were created, and I came out of his rib, and then we're not supposed to eat from that tree. And basically the teacher explains, okay, well, actually that's not true. Here's what really happened. If you eat from that tree, you'll remember all of this. So Eve eats from the tree, convinces Adam to do the same, and here from this point, actually, it's a lot like the original Genesis. God shows up, I'm angry, and expels them from Eden and all that stuff. However, when that happens, Zoe has now basically her life has been released from the tree, and Zoe and Eve are now separate beings. It's kind of a weird thing. Like the human Eve and the celestial Eve are two different. But what happens is she's really pissed off when she finds out how Yaldabaoth is treated, basically her creation. So she goes to heaven and destroys the heavens of each of the seven lords of chaos and knocks them out of it. So they have to share one heaven. Originally there were like 8, and now they got to share the one because they take her off. And this next part's kind of important. She unleashed a phoenix upon the earth, and there will be a phoenix upon the earth until the day of judgment, until the biblical apocalypse. And then there's also mention of a phoenix worm and her, like, basically unleashing serpents and alligators and all kinds of reptiles upon the earth. And all this comes into play when we get to Eve and Supernatural. This is why I think they got this Eve and Supernatural. First of all, Eve had to have a virgin vessel, right? Well, Eve was created from virgin birth. She created herself. So she would have been a virgin. So it makes sense that she would have to have a virgin vessel. Also, the teacher was a very large serpent. And who had to release Eve from purgatory? Do you remember who released Eve from purgatory? Dragons. The sword and stone. Dragons. Right? The dragons who released Eve, which I think is mentioned in fact, maybe like the beast, the teacher was the alpha of the dragons. And lastly, the only way to kill Eve was Phoenix action. The problem is, Phoenix, according to the myth, Phoenix will only be on Earth until the apocalypse happens. The apocalypse already happened at this point. Which also explains why they had to time travel to go get them. Because by the time the apocalypse happens, according to the myth, there could be no phoenixes upon the Earth. they had to go back to when there still was one on there in order to get the Phoenix Ashes. Also explains why he felt like it was okay to come out hiding. Because, obviously, well, the apocalypse has already happened. They've lost a chance to get me. The only thing that can kill me is not even on the planet anymore. So she, I think, felt safe and loose. And it came out of hiding, and then Cass, we got to have that wonderful Frontierland episode. I love this. It's my favorite part of it. Then, I'm sorry, no real transition. So then we come to the darkness, and when I found out the darkness was female, I was like, holy crap, they're doing the triple goddess. And I don't know that they did it on purpose, but they did. Amara represents the crone. And a lot of people misunderstand the crone. They think it means an old woman. It really doesn't. Crone is really like a wise woman or a matriarch. That word kind of came to have a different connotation later on, but that word really meant more like a wise matriarchal figure. What I also thought was interesting is that Amara in Arabic means bitter, and she is certainly bitter. That's one angry chick. But I wasn't expecting. When they said they were going with the darkness, I figured they were going biblical on this one. So, the darkness is a part of not just biblical, but most mythologies. That in the beginning, you had the darkness, you had the void, and when light was created, it gave a balance to existence. It allowed reality to exist. That's almost the first duality. And reality can't exist without binary dualities. You can't have good without evil. You can't have light without death. You can't have light without dark. So that's kind of the first one that human beings come to understand in our existence, is that light and dark, one is not the other. And so in ancient mythologies, a lot of times, especially when it comes to creator gods, you end up with these pairings of a creator god and creator goddess. Sometimes they are both good, sometimes one's good, one's evil, sometimes one favors the dark, one favors the light. And if you even look at early ancient sky god cultures, usually the sun was considered a male god and the moon female. So the sun gives light to the moon, and that was, it was kind of like the female ruled the dark and the male ruled the light. They could have taken that from any number of myths. That was the hard part for me. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I could not find a myth, one specific myth that I could point to and say, that's where Supernatural got this from, because there's so many of them. And they took elements from what we just talked about, the Gnostic scriptures.
It's the demons.
But also we have the understanding that if you look like Norse mythology, for example, Ragnarok, right? In Norse mythology, you have this binary system that our world can only exist until the polar opposites come to meet one more time. If they come to meet one more time, they end each other and they end us in the process. It's kind of the same thing. Sorry, spoilers, so cover your ears for a second. It's kind of like with this last season with Amara and Chuck. One can't be killed and the other live. That won't work. If one's killed, like if you have no dark and you only have light, makes existence. If you only have light, you don't have any dark, it makes existence. You can't have to have both of them, which is why God didn't ever kill her. He just locked her up. Well, also was his sister. He loved her. But that's that I thought was an interesting thing. It's very true. If you were to remove the balance, and then Dean has the awesome nuclear option idea of we'll just kill both of them.
No, don't kill Chuck.
Let's kill all the people, and then there's no more balance anymore. It doesn't work. One cancels the other out. We just kill them both. It's a genius idea. So anyway, and there's this really cool moment, and again, cover your ears if you don't want to spoil it. At the end of this season, the very last episode of this season, when Chuck and Mark kind of make peace, and they kind of have this intertwining of each other as they move up back to heaven. They take a break, as they said. I don't know if they were going to heaven. They were going somewhere else. They were taking a vacation. And it kind of made me think of yin and yang. It was very, very kind of similar symbolism. And at this point, I've had several people get a hold of me recently saying, "So is this it?" Like people got a hold of me like the week before the final thing when that whole thing with Chuck happened. And I'm not gonna mention. People were like, "Holy crap! Are they gonna do what I think they're gonna do?" And they didn't. Thank goodness. Because there were some people that were worried like that they were actually gonna end it this season and not tell anyone, and they would have had riots. That would have been horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize how many Supernatural fans there are, and they would have had panic in the streets. I think if they had ended the entire season the entire series this season and not told anybody they were going to do it. You gotta have time to process before they do that. But there are some whispers, and don't get mad at me. Like I said, just conveying information. There are some whispers the next season may or may not be the last one. I don't know. CW says they'll keep making it as long as people are watching it, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. Let's see. I got until 1:45. Okay, awesome. It's nice that we got to start like 10 minutes early. So what I like to do is open things up for questions for about 10-20 minutes. If people have questions, it doesn't have to be about what's up here. It could be about something having to do with supernatural, mythology in general. Just whatever you guys have a question.